John Keats coined his own theory of aesthetics in a rather casual letter to his brothers, jotting down a basic account of running into mutual friends and conversations struck up. He hit on the phrase negative capability, which he says is really the secret to poetic greatness, to artistic greatness, and in it you can really see the romantic theory at work, the romantic mind in practice as a poet. In this very short and charming letter, to quite frankly, he says, at once it struck me what quality went to form a man of achievement, especially in literature, and which Shakespeare possessed so enormously. I mean negative capability. That is, when a man is capable of being in uncertainties, mysteries, doubts, without any irritable reaching after fact and reason. He takes a shot at Coleridge and Coleridge's questing for answers in his German idealist vein, always striving for a kind of pure rationality and knowing everything that the Romantics generally disputed in the later generations. But then he brings it back and he says, this pursued through volumes would perhaps take us no further than this, that with a great poet, the sense of beauty overcomes every other consideration, or rather obliterates all consideration. That's intriguing. That is a value of aesthetics over reason. That is a rejection of reason itself. The idea that we can know everything, or that we can really know anything. It is a discarding of the entire Enlightenment tradition, the prioritization of knowledge and reason. Here he's saying that, well, no, a great artist, a great poet can pursue a more ambiguous and nuanced and uncertain quality, and that itself has value. Consider the final lines of Keats's famous Ode to a Grecian Urn. Beauty is truth, truth beauty. That is all ye know on earth and all ye need to know. What that means, I have no idea, and I don't think he had any idea either. It is a statement of some frustrating ambiguity. But for Keats, the ambiguity is kind of the point. For Keats, there is no certainty in life. And remember, biographically, he didn't know what he was facing in life. He knew that his life was ending. He had no idea what was coming after that. He had to struggle with ambiguity. In the prime of his life, he was being overtaken by death, and he had to find some level of comfort with not knowing in order just to get out of bed in the morning. Now, this quality of negative ambiguity, the people will sometimes dwell on the negative, or negative capability, rather. People will dwell on the negative. It is a celebration, if you will, of not being able to do something, an anti-positive approach that is more the obverse of something more proactive, let's say. If you hear in this little tints of, let's say, the Tao Te Ching, of Taoism in general, you wouldn't be far off. It is largely that construction where a thing is not necessarily defined by exclusively itself, but also its other, and definition tends to melt away. The exact connection between Taoism and Keats is a matter is a matter of some frustration for scholars. There's no real evidence that he was particularly read in on all the subtleties. Certainly, there was a exoticism of Eastern thought and philosophy that drifted through the Romantic movement in general. But the point-to-point analysis of this is a little hard to track with Keats. but he dealt with these concepts repeatedly throughout his letters, very frankly, as he's struggling for a consideration of. He never really collected them into a full treatment, but he, in his letters, which are fascinating to read, to friends, to his brothers, to other writers, he's working out these ideas in his head. He doesn't seem to have much of an interest in writing the great book of aesthetics or anything, but he's noodling around with these concepts, presumably to put them into practice so that he can sharpen his mind and figure out exactly how he wants to create poetry, not so much how he wants to read others. He's very, throughout the letters, he's very obviously concerned with Shakespeare. Shakespeare is perhaps a bit of a boogeyman for him, certainly anxiety of influence running through him. But there is a repeated example of Shakespeare as a kind of exemplar of negative capability, and that that struggle to meet that example, to deal with the height of poetic achievement in Shakespeare, for himself struggling even just to make it through another day, write another poem, everything, while he looks at the mountain of Shakespeare's accomplishments. This must have been quite daunting for him. And so he feels himself caught between these examples. He feels himself in a kind of negative capability state where he has produced some work, but he hasn't produced others. And should he be judged exclusively on what he has produced, or also what could have been? That's the larger issue. But the express issue for him is in the individual poems, in the individual poems that he reads, in the individual poems that he read. What else is there? What is hinted at but not made explicit? What is suggested? You can't know everything. You can't have all the answers. You don't have the mental equipment to reach all of the answers, but you have the ability to hint. You have the ability to deal with shadows, to deal with uncertainties, to deal with moods. Is the art good enough in that realm to overcome any hesitations about what it actually suggests, what it actually knows? Or is it more the feeling that it creates in you, the feeling of possibility, the feeling of mystery, the feeling of hope for something more, something you don't have the ability to reach, but the promise of it can move you forward?